I arrived early. The frost still clung to the black iron gate of the Hale estate as I stepped from my rental car. My fingers tightened around the ribbon box in my hand. White satin, deep crimson wrapping paper, elegant enough for any glossy family portrait. My heels clicked against the stone path as I walked past the hedges trimmed into winter angels. Bennett always liked a proper entrance. He had told me quite casually over the phone last week, "Don't come too early this year, Sarah. We're trying something new with the dinner setup." I remember smiling, hearing the sound of Elise's voice faintly in the background, laughing at something that didn't involve me. But I came early anyway. I had the right to come home whenever I wanted. Didn't I? My breath turned white as I climbed the steps of the wide front porch. My fingers trembled as I reached for the handle of the oak door. Then I heard it. Bennett's voice. Clear, smooth, confident. The kind of voice you rehearse in a mirror. "She's pregnant," he announced. A pause. "Elise is pregnant. I'm going to be a father." My hand froze on the doorknob. No one gasped. No one screamed. No silence of shock. Just the unmistakable pop of champagne and laughter layered with congratulations. "We've waited long enough," Rowan's voice chuckled. "Finally, the family line is secure." I stood there, on the other side of the frosted glass, the box in my hand growing heavier by the second. Inside, I could see Elise's hands cradling her belly. But it wasn't Bennett she was looking at. Her eyes shifted toward Kaylin. Briefly. Too long for a coincidence. Kaylin blinked, then looked away like a child caught cheating on a test. Marisol, seated like a queen with a blood-red wine glass, didn't even smile. She simply murmured, "Everything will finally go to the right people." My body didn't shake. I didn't collapse. I didn't scream. Something colder than the wind settled over me. The kind of cold you don't come back from. I turned slightly, just enough to see the glittering Christmas tree inside, its gold ornaments reflecting a family I no longer recognized. My grip on the gift loosened. The box slipped from my fingers and landed silently onto the porch. The tag fluttered free. To Elise, love, Bennett. My eyes widened. That necklace. I had chosen it for Bennett on our 3rd anniversary. Custom. Rare. Engraved. He had given her my gift. I stepped back into the shadows of the porch, leaning heavily against the railing. My breath came in shallow, angry gasps. I didn't cry. Somewhere in my coat pocket, my phone buzzed and slipped loose. The screen lit up. Somehow the voice memo app opened. It started recording. I didn't notice. The garden was quiet except for distant laughter and the occasional clink of a fork against china. Then I heard soft footsteps. I turned. Leora emerged from the hedges, her coat draped over one shoulder, eyes solemn under the moonlight. "You shouldn't be here, Serafina," she said gently, taking my hand. I stared at her. "You knew." Her sigh was deep. "Something felt off tonight. I came because your mother would have wanted me to. But they've all decided what future they want, and it doesn't include you." I felt something sting behind my eyes, but I wouldn't let it fall. "Why didn't anyone ever tell me?" "Because you still believed in them," she replied. "You still wore the name like it protected you." I nodded. My voice was low. "Then they'll see who I become without it." We stood in silence, surrounded by winter roses and betrayal. From inside the house, I heard Marisol's voice, rising above the others, lifting a glass. "To a future without burdens," she toasted. I left the box on the porch. I left the estate without anyone noticing I was ever there. No tears. No farewells. They planned a new life without me. So I gave them exactly what they wanted, me gone. For now. 3 days after Christmas, I woke up to silence. Not the kind that comforts, but the kind that confirms you're alone now, for good. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I sat on the floor of my apartment with a cup of coffee that had gone cold, staring at the frosted window. Then I opened my laptop and started to organize the destruction. First, the timeline. Every dinner, every offhand comment, every time someone suggested I wasn't ready for the board yet. Every time Bennett smiled when I said I'd handle the taxes. I built it like I'd built every multi-million-dollar project I ever managed. Except this time, I was the client, the problem, and the solution. I used an old password Bennett gave me back when we were still pretending to be partners. It worked. The Hale family digital vault opened. I started digging. Property transfers. Hidden folders. A luxury villa in Savannah, originally gifted to me by Dorian, had been transferred 2 months ago to Rowan. The signature was mine, but I never signed anything. The timestamp? 3 days before our wedding anniversary. My stomach flipped, but I kept going. Then I found a folder buried in the shared drive. It was labeled Archive Miscellaneous. Inside it, a PDF titled Q4 Planning Notes. But the document was something else. Scanned, handwritten. Marisol's journal. My name, circled in red ink under the heading, Legacy Realignment Plan. Serafina is a strategic placeholder. She lacks legacy viability. Suggested replacement, EW. Elise Ward. My fingers clenched around the mouse. The date on the journal? 2 years before Bennett ever proposed. I printed every page, slid them into plastic protectors, and placed them into a binder I labeled Asset Attack. My rage didn't spill. It calcified. This wasn't just betrayal. It was architectural, deliberate, engineered, and I was the blueprint. I drove to a property I once believed was mine, a gift from Dorian after I closed a deal that saved his company millions. It was supposed to be my place of retreat. I hadn't been back since last spring. Now a sign hung in the window, for lease, Hale Holdings LLC. I walked in, pretending to be a potential tenant. The woman showing the property was Elise. She didn't recognize me in sunglasses and a beanie. The house smelled like citrus and betrayal. Framed pictures lined the hallway. Elise and Bennett, holding hands, smiling by the fireplace. In the kitchen, an eviction notice draft lay carelessly on the counter, addressed to me. It was dated December 22nd. They planned to erase me before I ever walked in that door on Christmas Eve. Back at my apartment, I powered up the kitchen security system I'd once installed for home monitoring. It was still active, still linked to a cloud I controlled. There they were. Bennett, Marisol, Rowan, Elise. She'll sign if we offer enough, Marisol said. She's not wired for conflict. She's a checklist girl, Rowan laughed. Offer her a golden exit. She'll fold. I hit record all. Time-stamped each line. Elise looked visibly uneasy. Kaylin wasn't there. Curious. Then the feed froze. A beat. Another. Then static. They knew. I yanked the cord from the router. My hands shook, not from fear. From adrenaline. They were watching me watch them. The game had changed. I was still pacing the apartment when my laptop pinged. An email. No subject. Encrypted. Message. Trust no one. Especially not Bennett. No signature. But I knew that voice. Even through code. Kaylin. I didn't reply. I didn't trust him either. Not yet. Instead, I built a war board. Taped printouts to the walls. The journal, the fake lease, the photos. Red thread. Dates. A post-it under Elise's sonogram. Conceived March, Kaylin in London until May. The math didn't work. I whispered. That baby might not even be Bennett's. But that wasn't my hammer. That was my insurance. I found another folder hidden in the Hale family calendar. Transition plan. Inside, a draft legal document. It detailed a proposed restructuring of Hale Holdings. At the end of January, all current asset holders were to consolidate rights for future generational viability. My signature was pre-inserted. A forged one. I called Angela. We hadn't spoken in years, not since she tried to block the Hales from swallowing up a block of Charleston's old French Quarter. She lost, but barely. I knew she'd remember. I need help, I said. Her response, I never liked those bastards anyway. She was in. We ran ink analysis on 2 contracts. Both used identical digital patterns. Fraud. I closed the last file, leaned back in my chair, and stared at the ceiling. They wanted me to leave quietly. I smiled. I'll burn the blueprints. I stared at the name glowing on my phone screen, Marisol Hale. I pressed record, then hit call. My voice trembled, but not from weakness. I can't do this anymore, I sobbed. You win. Just tell me what I need to sign to make this go away. Her voice, warm with false comfort, oozed through the receiver. Oh, sweetheart, we never wanted this to be ugly. We just needed to protect the family's legacy. I let her keep talking, let her explain how Bennett had gently guided my trust documents, how they streamlined things with Elise because you never truly fit in. I kept nodding, murmuring agreement. I hung up 10 minutes later, my eyes dry, hand steady as I hit save on the recording. Angela would timestamp and archive it under our cloud account. I exhaled. Got you. The next evening, the Hale estate was lit like a wedding venue. A surprise family dinner, orchestrated by Marisol to restore the image. I arrived late, clutching a sealed envelope. Let's eat, Bennett announced, his smile stretched too tight. I cleared my throat. Before dessert, I have something. The room froze as I placed the envelope on the table. A DNA test, I said, collected from a pillow in the Montrose condo where Elise's been nesting. Elise's eyes darted to Kaylin. He stared at the floor. The baby's not Bennett's, I continued. It's Kaylin's. Gasps erupted. Elise stammered. She's lying. Kaylin stood, walked out without a word. Rowan turned to Elise, rage spilling. You disgrace this family. Bennett tried to salvage the moment, but it was too late. The room was a war zone. Elise collapsed into a chair. Marisol's voice cut through. Enough. But the cracks were visible, and they were deep. By morning, Bennett had gone on offense. A leaked report claimed I'd embezzled Hale Holdings funds. Local media devoured it. Stock slipped. Angela and I moved fast. We held a press briefing and laid out the evidence, line by line. I ended with the recording. Bennett coercing me to sign false transfers. The board listened in silence. We need a vote, Rowan muttered. They removed Bennett. I was offered controlling interest to prevent legal escalation. I didn't smile. Not yet. A week later, in court for arbitration, Marisol made her move. She staggered, hand on her chest, and collapsed. Gasps. Shouting. A family doctor rushed in. After 10 minutes, he stood up, stone-faced. She's stable. No signs of stroke. No neurological events. Dead silence. Even Dorian's shoulders slumped. His wife had faked a stroke for sympathy. I stood, handed the court clerk two things, Marisol's journal and the call transcript. The judge nodded. We'll set trial for fraud, coercion, and breach of fiduciary duty. And then, like a ghost from a chapter I'd long buried, he walked in. Silas Rowe. He placed a manila envelope on the table. My affidavit. Seraphina's mother's will was illegally merged into Hale assets. This is the original. Angela's eyes widened. This changes everything. I pulled back my pen from the signing line. We'll reopen the case. The judge nodded again. The estate audit would go federal. You waited, I told Silas quietly. You had to become strong enough to use the truth, he replied. Back at the estate, everything collapsed. Rowan flung a chair across the room. Elise screamed. None of this was supposed to happen. Kaelin tried to speak, but I silenced him with a look. You don't get to say sorry. Not today. Bennett was arrested outside, fraud and financial tampering. Dorian didn't speak, just stood beside Marisol, who looked like a hollow statue. Security escorted Elise out, her belly swollen, her reputation ruined. I stood alone in the shattered legacy. Not broken. Whole. I arrived early that night, but I left at the exact time I became free. Ever had someone fake kindness so long they forgot you were watching?